flowing and just to, but you, our guest speaker, the IG creator of the Path to PA, has created a PowerPoint for us. Wonderful. If you want to share that now, you can. Or
should I share it now?
Yeah, you can.
Okay.
I mean, I just created that, like introducing you.
Here we go.
Should I stop? Do I have to stop sharing in order for you to share? Let me try it.
I think so, yeah.
How's everything over there?
Doing well. I'm actually in Florida, so I was confused about the Eastern Standard Time and Pacific Standard Time, but I got it down. So everything's well. Okay. So here we go. I see that your presentation today is on the application process, and I included some of that in here, so we'll just kind of breeze over it if you're going to go into more depth about it. So I'm Jillian. I am in month 10 of my didactic program here. So see a little about me. I'm 23 years old. I'm from New Jersey. I'm at the University of Delaware, class of 2019, and I go to Kaiser University, PA program, class of 2021. So I entered college as a bio pre-med major. I think a lot of people start off as, and that's totally fine. I switched to pre-PA sophomore year. I ended up creating a CASPA account in 2018, and I thought I was ready to apply, which I think is another thing that you have to think about when you're personally ready to apply versus when maybe other people are applying. And so I ended up meeting with a college career advisor, and we talked it out, and I ended up waiting another year to apply, which benefited me in the end. And I applied in the 2019-2020 cycle. And so here's my pre-PA experience. I worked for a physical therapy rehab tech, which is just like a physical therapy aide, and I gained like 1,500 hours of patient care experience. I went on a MedLife trip, which was a trip to Ecuador for 2 weeks. It was like a medical mission trip. I found it through a club at my college. I also went on a domestic service trip through another club in my college to Maine, which was really great. One of my first pre-PA volunteer experiences was actually with hospice. It's a really easy way to get involved in healthcare volunteering. I had a few experiences shadowing, which was great. And then I was in a sorority. I held multiple executive positions there, and I also worked as a chemistry workshop leader. So I just kind of tried to have a broad experiences on my application, and I think it served me well. So here's like overall plan for applying to PA school. I know you're going to get into this too, but so you just start by researching programs. I think this was a big thing for me. I had no idea where to start, considering there's over 300 programs now. And so narrowing down what you want, what you need out of a program, I think is very important. Also comparing your classes with the prereqs is a big deal. And then the minimum patient care experience, volunteering, letters of rec. I wasn't very close with many of my professors, which when it came time to ask for letters of recommendation, I think wasn't very great. But I ended up forming a relationship with a professor where I got a good grade in their class. So they kind of can speak on that academic ability if you ask for a letter of rec from a professor where you did receive a good grade. And yeah, so personal statement is another big part, and beginning your personal statement, that was the hardest part for me, I think, because you work all these years and you build up your GPA and your experiences, but then it's just your one personal statement, and it has to speak to who you are and why you want to be a PA. And then just knowing the outline of like the timeline of CASPA. So it opening in April every year. I suggest starting maybe a year before, 6 months before, looking into it, just so that you are familiar with it, because that was a big part of figuring out where you are lacking and your weaknesses in your application. And then submitting it is another big step. A big thing I get on my account is asking how to gain patient care experience. And so I just put this in here for examples of patient care experience without any prior experience or certification. So these are positions where you can go in, they'll train you on the job. And so here's just a list of that. So I was a rehab technician and I went in with no experience, but I said, hey, I'm like a pre-healthcare, pre-PA. I'm looking for experience around patients, around other healthcare providers, and they're more than happy to train me on the job. And I worked there for 2 years and it was great. So here's some examples. I know a lot of people become MAs, certified nursing assistants, medical scribes is another great way. And here's just a list of positions that I've gathered from people via Instagram of how they gain patient care experience. And so I know you are going to go over this today, but here was just like a little CASPA introduction slide. And so the first section was really fairly easy. And then the second, I think the hardest part was the transcript entry. I think a lot of people struggle on what they should include, what you shouldn't include, and really you include everything. So there's nothing you won't include on your transcript entry for colleges, including anything you've withdrawn from, pass, fail, you include all of that, any courses taken outside of your main university. And then, so for the third section, it's the evaluations, experiences, achievements, licenses, certifications, and memberships. And so the big part that you fill out is the experiences, and you want to lay them out in, I like to lay them out in a chronological order. And then filling out the descriptions is a big, was a challenge for me because you only have 600 characters and you want to relay what the experiences meant to you, what you did, how it helped you grow, and how it will help you be a great PA student. And then the last part was the program supporting material, which I personally wasn't aware of going into the CASPA application. I prepared for months, and then I got to this section and I had applied to 16 programs, which is a lot. And I probably didn't need to apply to 16 programs, but I did because I was probably scared of not getting in for a cycle. And so when it came to time to the program supporting material, each different program wanted different things. So a resume for this one, documentation of shadowing, and then also there were so many extra short answers that you have to consider when you fill this out. And so then what you can do right now as a pre-PA student, so just keep gaining patient care experience, volunteering hours, try to find shadowing opportunities, raising your GPA. Although I know like the main science courses are difficult, try to throw in a few easier courses or just like grade booster courses if you can, it can't hurt. And then start your application plan. And so I think the plan has mostly to do with when you're gonna apply, where you're gonna apply, and then also I think the cost of applications is a big thing because not many people consider this when they pick out 20 programs to apply to. And when I picked out 16, it did get very expensive. Okay, and so what application you want to apply during. So I applied during the 2019-2020 cycle, and I started PA school in January of 2020. And so if you want to attend school in 2022, then you apply during the 2021-2022 cycle and so on. And I think figuring out the timing of your application is important so that when it comes time, you're well prepared. Whereas when I was gonna apply in 2018, I was not prepared at all. I had not looked into any of the requirements. And I think a lot of people jump the gun and start applying and then they don't get in during a cycle and it makes them discouraged, but no shame in waiting an extra year. And so when you're researching programs, here's some main factors to consider. So the information about the program, obviously where it's located, if you want to commute or if you want to get an apartment. So I'm from New Jersey, so I had to come down to Florida. I got an apartment. I live with 2 roommates who are also in the program. So that's something that I had to consider. Tuition, accreditation. So there's a few main types of accreditation. And so continued is the accreditation where the program's meeting the ARC-PA standards, which is the accrediting body. So that's a good one. And then there's probation, which means that the program's doing something where it's not meeting the standards. And then there's also developing, which means the program's new and they're looking for accreditation. And then duration of the program. And so the program I attend is 24 months. Now I feel like they're getting a little longer. And so you want to consider if you want to be in school for 3 years or 2 years or somewhere in between. I personally wanted to do a 24-month program, just go all the way through. This whole year we've had about 2 weeks off since we started in January, so it's been a constant year, but it's been good. Class size, so my class size is 40. I think that was a great in between. I know there's some that get to like 150, but when we were in person back in January and February, 40 felt like it was big. It was big, but also like very small. At the same time, we all fit in one classroom. We were all pretty close, which was nice. And then the PANCE pass rate. So how many students from the previous cohorts are passing the PANCE, how well the program's preparing you. That's something to consider. And then the class start month. So if you're going to start in January versus the summer versus the fall, just something to consider. And then the GPA minimums. So most of them are around 3.0, 3.2 minimums for your GPA. Some are 2.75. So if you have a lower GPA, you might want to consider those programs because maybe the application pool will be full of applicants with lower GPAs. It's possible, but it's also not a guarantee. And then prerequisite courses. So are your prerequisites meeting the standards? Do you have other ones that might be recommended? That could be prove your academic ability for the rigors of PA school. And then your patient care hours, shadowing, letters of recommendation, and then standardized exams, which usually have just been the GRE or the CASPA judgment exam, but now the PA CAS being introduced, which is interesting. I actually took it back in January during the first few weeks of PA school, just as a trial run to see how well our class who were entering PA students would do on an exam like that. And it was pretty difficult without studying, I think, especially because I had not taken general bio, general chemistry for a while. So that's definitely upping the standards of the standardized exams. So here's a breakdown of just like the main costs of applying to PA school. So the CASPA applications, the first one, $179. Each additional is $55. And then supplemental applications can range up to $100 per application. Some are 0, some are 50, 75, 80, 100, and those are just an added expense, especially if you're applying to a lot of schools. And then there's standardized exams. And then interviews is a whole nother aspect that I didn't really consider because I submitted all my applications and I was like, great, I'm all done with like this cost. And then when it came time for interviews, I had to get a nice suit. I needed to book flights. I needed to book hotel rooms, Ubers to and from the interview, food. It was a lot. And then the seat deposit, which for my program was $1,000. So when they email you and they say like, congratulations, you've been accepted, you have 2 weeks to put your seat deposit down, you need to kind of have that leeway to secure your seat with $1,000. Some aren't that much though. And here's just some great resources that I found on Instagram. I'm sure many of you know these. My PA box for researching PA programs. I think it's a really easy way for all the PA programs to be in one place and for you to sort through them as you'd like. I personally, a few years ago, made a huge Excel sheet. It was messy. The information was constantly changing, so you always had to like make sure it was updated, but with my PA box, you don't have to do that. So my PA resource, I did use them. I bought their basic service revision package for, I think it was $119. I bought it before CASPA opened the year I submitted my application, and I think that it made me feel so much more confident in that my personal statement was going in the right direction. And then my PA platform, which is also very popular, great advice. That's pretty much it. If anyone has any specific questions.
Thank you. That was very thorough. You seem like you have a lot of like stamina to keep your resume and your classes and all your outside extracurriculars. Yeah, you've got a lot of
Thanks.
And commitment, because you need the same stamina, if not more, for your current program.
Sorry, I'm losing your connection a little.
Oh, yeah, sorry. It seems, I mean, it's good because you need the same stamina, if not more, for your current program. because
Mhm.
it's like go, 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 2 weeks off.
Absolutely.
That's
It's a
nothing.
lot of juggling. So when you are, I know it's hard to work and go to school and volunteer and be involved in extracurriculars in undergrad, but once you get to PA school, you have to keep going with all of that. It might not be extracurriculars, but it might be like all the hours of studying, getting involved. And this week we actually just did ACLS and PALS certification, and it was like a lot of hours, and we had to be very hands-on. And I think it's a different experience now that we've been online for the past few months, but we've been coming in person as we can. So it's not what I had expected going in, but because of all of this, but it's definitely a ton of information, just how everyone says it is. And grateful to almost be done with this portion to move on to clinicals in January.
So how did it adjust to COVID for you?
I mean, back in March when they said, okay, go home, we're going to do online for 2 weeks, we didn't really expect to be online for months and months at a time.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's the discipline of paying attention during class, and some classes you have your camera on, but some you don't. And it's like, are you actively listening, or are you going to have to go back and go through all your notes? And you know what, sometimes I wasn't actively listening. You got to like be honest with yourself in what you can take sitting at a screen for all these hours without any interaction with your classmates, and learning all the or missing out on all the hands-on skills, which we then got to have like a quick overview once we finally started third semester. We started coming in for 2 hours every Wednesday. And that's what we've been doing for our first hands-on skills. And I think that we're just making the most of it, really. The transition was hard, but it had its pros and cons, you know.
Did they like adjust a little bit to give you leeway to make the changes you needed? Like slow down the pace, or were you just expected to keep running?
Yeah, they definitely didn't slow it down. They kind of already had set what we were going to be doing, especially going into second semester. We started our clinical medicine courses, which we went through each week or each 2 weeks. We would switch from cardio to pulm to infectious disease and do every like organ system basically. And it just kept going.
So the $1,000,000 question is why PA?
And every Monday we have exams on those, multiple exams every week. It's kind of like how it's finals every week. It just is, and you just keep going. And at this, we used to try to like prepare a lot ahead of time, but now it's just been like taking it week by week, doing what we can, keeping our head above the water, you know?
Yeah. And how many of the students have any fallen out of the program and decided to maybe start later?
No, we still have all 40 of us since the beginning. So yeah, we've all made it through the hardships of this year.
Yeah, together. Did your program have like a buddy system where they came in prior to starting and you got to meet everyone and then you were paired up for some like previous class?
With the cohort above us, the second years, we were matched to like a big sister, big brother kind of thing. And so when we were in person, we did meet with them, and we would have like mixers during our lunch hours when the second years were on campus. Mm-hmm. And so we got to meet with them, ask them questions, and then we did get matched, and we got their phone numbers. We exchanged numbers with a lot of people. And then we also set up gatherings outside of class at local restaurants and places before COVID happened.
And so you're paired up with the new incoming class as well?
I will be paired up this January with the new incoming class, but I have a big who is a second year.
Oh, okay. So your program starts in January. I thought it was summer for some reason. So it's your program starts.
Sorry, I lost connection again.
Yeah.
January. Mm-hmm. I have bad connection here. It's not the best.
Yeah, it happens. How did you prepare for your interviews?
The interviews I was fairly nervous for, honestly. I'm not the best at interviewing. I read Savannah Perry's interview guidebook, which I thought was very helpful to get like a basis. And then I took out the main questions and like patient care stories or stories of how I came to want to be a PA, and use those to guide me if I ever got caught up in an answer. And so I thought that was very helpful. I also video recorded myself answering questions and looked back and picked it apart. But I know a lot of people do use mock interview. I think that is very helpful to be put on the spot and feel that pressure as a practice.
What was the style of your school's interview? Was it, were you individual or were you grouped?
So we had a couple different portions. So one was, we all got a scenario. There was 5 of us actually in the room, and 5 of us had to talk amongst ourselves about a specific scenario, kind of pretending that the professors and program coordinators weren't watching. So they were like kind of judging us. And then we had a 3-on-1 interview, and then also a written essay. Yeah. So it was like those 3 portions. Yeah.
I've never heard of those ones before. That really tests your like collaboration and working team building skills right in front of everyone.
Yeah, you had to like, and everyone with this situation, you want to see who's going to step up, come up with a solution kind of thing. So it was definitely helpful.
That's new. I've never, did you participate in similar interviews like that in other schools that you went to?
I didn't. The other interview that I attended, it was 1-on-1 for 30 minutes, 3 separate times, which was nice because you got to interact with multiple different people and for an extended period of time, which was nice.
And you took a year off, like a gap year in between the graduation and applying?
I planned on taking a gap year, but since this program started in January, it was only 6 months. So it was good.
And then why did you want to go PA?
So I started medicine, but I don't think I exactly knew like what role I wanted to play. And so I think I easily defaulted on pre-med, and then learning about the PA profession, I thought it was just such a better fit for me. I didn't need to be the main one in charge. I just wanted to diagnose, and I think that this was the perfect route for me. And I didn't want medicine to be my whole life, just like a part of it. And I think the balance has really proved to be true.
Do you think, so are you planning to return to New Jersey and practice there?
I'm not sure yet. So we will see. I'm kind of open to staying here, traveling around, seeing where it takes me really.
That's got to be exciting. You like see the finish line, right?
Yeah, I know. Almost.
Yeah. Wow, 2nd year. I mean, that's, I don't know. I'm excited for you. I can't believe you have all this like schooling to do, and you've got so much like time to commit, and you have to in order to be successful in your courses. But I don't understand how you have the energy for your Instagram. I am amazed. Really.
I don't know either. I think it's just something that I started and I just wanted to keep up with. And some days I do take days off, and then some, like, I won't post for 4 or 5 days, but it's just something that is now part of my routine, you know?
That's true.
Yeah.
Into a pattern, yeah. The information that you put out there is incredible. And it's like,
thanks.
Really helpful.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
It just keeps going like the Energizer Bunny, just like you.
Yeah, definitely.
Are there any questions from anyone?
Yeah, I was just wondering about how you first said that you started on the route of pre-med, and then sophomore year you switched to pre-PA, and I was just wondering what exactly that entails as like in your undergrad and in the first years, because right now I am at the community college and I'm on the track of getting an associate's in biology, but I didn't really know exactly what it means to specialize.
I'm sorry, it's breaking up a little. I'm so sorry. It broke up a little, and I heard that you are at, can you just repeat the question? I'm sorry.
Okay, so right now I am Atmore Park and getting an associate's in biology.
Mhm.
And I know that you said you had a pre-med route in biology and then you turned into a pre-PA route
Mhm.
biology. And I was just wondering what that difference is and what I would be doing for that, because I'm just new about getting a biology, like a bachelor's of science in
Mhm.
biology, but what that difference is.
I mean, you can really go PA any major. So biology would be totally sufficient as long as you have all those prereqs. But for me, I forgot to mention, I switched my whole major from biology to a major at my college called medical diagnostics, which was the pre-PA major at my school. And it contained more classes like immunology, hematology, medical virology. And so I kind of, the biology courses were very different than those like medically based courses. And so that's just the route I took. And that was my pre-PA route, but plenty of people apply to PA school with biology, chemistry, any other major, as long as you have like the set prereqs.
What was that major called?
It was called medical diagnostics.
Okay.
Some
Thank
schools
you.
have, you're welcome, specific like pre-PA routes. I think it was a newer route for my school, and I think I think it helped me a lot, especially seeing hematology and immunology and medical micro rather than just plain micro in certain majors for PA school.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
If there was something that you would have changed on your interview, like looking back, or even your application, what do you think it would be?
I mean, I wish I had, if I could change something, it would probably be my GPA, just because it wasn't very great. Coming into PA school, I've heard many other of my classmates' GPAs, and they were a couple points higher than mine, which was very interesting. And I just think that, I think my application was well-rounded, and I think that's where I succeeded. For the interview, I probably was just very nervous and could have used more practice and a mock interview or two beforehand to be less nervous, to calm the nerves.
How many interviews did you go on?
I only went on 2.
Yeah, that's hard to get a warm up on that. Good thing that you practice.
Yeah.
I mean, how would you suggest that currently in our current situation? I mean, when some of these applicants actually apply, they might do the in-person, or maybe they'll do, I don't know, Zoom meetings. They'll offer that as an option, but currently it's Zoom. So how would you, what kind of advice would you get?
I think the biggest advice would be put yourself in a setting with no distractions, where you feel comfortable as if you were actually entering like a room at the university, sitting down with the professor. You don't want anything distracting. You want to still be professional appearance wise. No sounds in the background, no dogs, try to minimize that the best you can and allow yourself to focus and interact more. And since you can only really see my eye contact if I'm looking at the screen, avoid looking around and such, which you should do in person anyway, but it's different when it's online, and that's the only connection that you can really make.
Okay, so have you heard about how people are wording or approaching, because there's a COVID paragraph that you're allowed to enter on the current application. There might be one on the next one, like how you were impacted if you wanted to apply. It might be a continuing thing. If not COVID, maybe replaced by something else. But what have you heard with regards to how people are addressing that in the application process?
So in April, when that essay portion, optional essay kind of came out, a lot of people felt they needed to answer it. And I think that you don't necessarily need to answer it unless it really affected your application process and your just motivation to become a PA. I think that's something that it could definitely, you can write about. But I think writing it to just fill it out doesn't really benefit you much, unless you have a reason to write it. And I think a lot of people were stressed about, like, I spent so much time on my personal statement, I got it revised, I did all this stuff, and now I have this essay and I don't know where to start. And I feel like if you don't have something in your heart to say about it, then you shouldn't really just like make up a whole essay just to do it, you know? That's why it is optional, and I think that it'll remain optional, obviously. And if you have been impacted, which I'm sure now we have all been impacted much more for this next upcoming cycle than maybe they had been impacted in March and April. This whole year has now been, we've experienced. So I think it would be more pertinent for the next cycle to fill that out with how it's impacted you and your process.
And what kind of volunteering positions have you heard of that people are making the adaptation at the current point?
So I feel like the whole hospital volunteering, I'm sure, is very down now. But I have heard of people going, being able to get back into hospitals, but then also COVID testing volunteering. I've seen people on Instagram volunteering to set up food banks around their town and like food drives, which is another great way to get involved. It doesn't have to be healthcare related. It could be at an animal shelter if they're allowing that. I actually volunteered in an animal shelter for a little, and it was fun, you know. It doesn't have to be a burden to go volunteer. I'm not sure about hospice, if that's still, probably not right now, because a lot of those patients are immunocompromised. Voting, I'm sure it might be too late now to get involved in volunteer voting, but yeah.
So it sounds like, I mean, it sounds like these are some of the things that if you weren't applying or in, you would be thinking of those situations.
Yeah, absolutely. Just any way you can really get involved. I know volunteer.org has a great way to like match you with something that you're interested in your area. So you can look that up and put in medicine, healthcare, if you are looking for volunteering opportunities in that area.
I have not heard of volunteering. I think so. I think you were like, this was incredible and so thorough. Thank you so much. Does anyone else
thank you so much for having me.
Questions?
I was just wondering, I had a couple questions about the standardized exams.
Mm-hmm.
I know you talked about a few different ones, so I was wondering which one you took and which is like most popular and recommended.
Okay, so I think the most popular one is the GRE right now, just because that's what's been required for the past however many years. It was pretty basic. You didn't need to study specific sections as you do the PA CAT. So the GRE was basic reading, writing, math. And then the CASPA exam is only required by, I think, like 30 to 45 schools right now, but it seems to be growing. And that one is like a situational judgment exam. And so you're presented with either prompts or video prompts or just a sentence, and you have 5 minutes to respond how you feel about it, what you would do about it, like ethical scenarios. And then the PA CAT, which is the newer standardized exam for PA schools, kind of mimicking the MCAT, has anatomy, physiology, chemistry, bio, statistics, genetics, and that's something where it's more like subject-based and you have to study those specific topics. But that one, I don't think it's being as enforced, especially right now. I think the school I attend recommends it, but they're not requiring it and said they can't hold it against you if you don't take it. So I feel like it's kind of, especially with the year that it's been, it's still kind of up in the air where if that's gonna take off and be the new standard for PA programs.
And then when do you recommend looking into which schools you want to apply to? Because I know they all have like different requirements, like different prereqs, but you would probably need to start taking those a few years before you graduate. So did you start looking like your sophomore year?
So I started looking probably, yeah, my sophomore year, specific programs. I was interested, seeing if they had any like special prerequisites, because some might have. A program I applied to had lifespan development. So I made sure to go out of my way to take that course. Whereas a lot of other programs have kind of just the general couple courses, maybe like 8 to 10 courses that you will see repeatedly on PA program requirements. So I would start with those, start gaining those credits like general bio, chem, anatomy, physiology. Some programs might require organic chemistry and biochemistry or statistics, some may not. And then if you really know specific ones, maybe they're in your town or somewhere where you really want to go, I would look into those specifically, see if you can take any of those courses throughout your 4 years. And if not, and if you do come across programs that have requirements that you didn't take, you can always take them online or at a community college. I mean, you guys are at a community college, correct?
Mm.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's plenty of time, like over the summer or over the winter or after you graduate. A lot of people have like outstanding prereqs, so you can take them then if you don't get those in, or you can just kind of fit what PA programs you want to apply to your own courses and what you've taken.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just kind of wondering like when would be like the right time to start looking for that reason.
Probably 2 years out from when you want to start, from when you want to apply, just so that you are well prepared. And if you do get caught up with an outstanding prereq, you can fit it in.
Okay. And
but
so
if not,
you graduated, you said in 2019, was it? Okay, so then you applied during that 2019, like in the fall, and then
I applied.
Yeah.
I actually applied in June of 2019. So I graduated in May of 2019, and I had gotten all my letters of rec, finished my personal statement. I had to wait for my transcript to come in that verified that I had earned the bachelor's degree, and that didn't come in until June. So then I had to wait until that came in and sent that over to CASPA. And then I applied, and then I heard back in July, and then I interviewed in August, and then I got accepted in September, and then I started in January. So that was kind of the timeline of that.
Okay. So do most people apply in the summer, like right after graduating?
I would say so, yeah. I think that especially with programs with early admission, with rolling admissions, you want to apply as early as possible, because some programs may have deadlines in October, November, December, or even January, February of the following year, but may have already filled their program seats by September. So it kind of it's best for you to apply as early as you can.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So your cohort, they're from all over the US.
Yeah.
And the majority of them have background in science, bachelor's.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's
some sort of healthcare position usually.
And did they similarly apply to, like, is that just the norm? Does everyone applies to at least a handful or 2 handfuls of schools?
I think the average is 8 to 12 schools. I think if you really narrow it down and see where you fit best in, you can apply to less. But I think, I know some people who apply to 1, get into 1, and they go, or some people who apply to 20, don't get into any and then have to reapply. I applied to 16. I got some immediate rejections because I wasn't competitive for those programs. So I think it's a little give and take of where you want to be, but also realistically where you are seen as competitive. And you can look at programs' average GPA of current PA students and kind of compare yourself a little. And if it's unrealistic, it might be not a waste of money, but maybe your money could be allocated to go to another school where you have a better chance. Just see it like that, you know?
And so the submission of your, so when you submit into the CASPA, the all over, it needs to get verified, and then
Mhm.
you additionally, you can only submit, I mean, you could choose to submit to one school primarily, and then select the other schools that you want to go to. Is that a strategy you took, or you just went all in?
I did them all at once in the same day. I submitted all 16. And I know people who will submit 4 early on, see how it goes, and then maybe later, like in July, submit another couple and see how it goes. I think that is a smart strategy that I just had never thought of. But yeah, I submitted them all at once.
A lot of preparation, and you did this. You have to get prepared ahead of time.
Yeah, to feel confident. Even though I was still scared, I still was nervous, but.
Thank you so much for doing this.
Oh, anytime. Thank you guys for having me. This is my first time
Oh, yeah?
presenting to a pre-PA club, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
Okay.
We're honored that it was us.
How do I stop share? Oh, I see it. Okay. Well, it was nice to meet you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for having me. Have a good weekend.
Yeah, and then just follow her on Instagram to keep up. And I mean, she's going to be still putting out stuff there and great advice. Just keep on going. And we look forward to hearing all of it.
Thank you. Good luck, guys.
Thank you. Have a good one.